tub shower replacement system. And some of you not sure about that. The way to know is just to reach out to them, and you can either go to their location and let them show you a complete build out and how beautiful these are. I know a lot of times people think about that. You think about something that's ergonomic and you start picturing sort of a hospital looking setup. It's not like that at all. These are beautiful. It'll upgrade the appearance and feel of your bathroom and be a whole lot easier for you or somebody you love to be able to use when you're trying to get in and out there and get refreshed every day. Y'all, it is Alabama Baths. Go reach out to them. They've been in business for well over 40 years with almost the whole same team in place. But there's a new generation taking over to continuing the tradition of treating people right, giving fair value, doing impeccable installs, and improving the lives of people with these systems. It's alabamabaths.com. If you want to go over to Pelham and take a look, they'd love to have you. Otherwise, one of those guys will come out and sit down with you. No pressure like you get from the corporate schmucks. It's alabamabaths.com. All right, if Nate's still there, I wanted to continue with him because I want Nate to get a bigger picture of what's going on here. Is Nate still there? Nate, you still there, man? AJ?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry.
Is Nate still on the line?
Yes, he is. He's
Punch him up. Nate, can you hear me, buddy?
Well, this isn't Nate. This is Chase.
Chase, were you?
My bad.
Oh, I'm sorry. AJ, come on. Tell me what's going on. Who's
Nate
on the
dropped
phone?
Off.
Nate's gone, and okay.
Sorry, I was trying to get Nate on. I'm sorry.
It's all right, buddy. Let me just start over. Let's just go to Chase since we went ahead and punched this call up. Chase, what's up, buddy?
Chase dropped off.
Chase dropped off. Why is everybody leaving me today? I feel so sad.
It's Monday.
It's Monday. All right, let me go back and just address some of Nate's concerns because you're going to get this. And I'm trying to do this with a compassion because, again, I've got kids roughly Nate's age. And what amazes me is in the age that we live in, and I mean this sincerely, we are in an information age and have access to more information than at any time in the history of the world. And we have people that know less. And I've been warning about this day after day after day. And it's because I believe of the reinforcing nature of social media. A lie, the old saying before social media and the internet was a lie can get halfway around the world before the truth can get its pants on. That was in the old days of gossip and telephones, I guess, and newspapers. But nowadays things get reinforced and people believe. There was a study the other day. I hope Nate's still listening because I'm trying to caution him to, I guess by calling our show, maybe he just had a point to make and he didn't want to listen, but I think he probably wants to listen. You can't believe everything you keep seeing over and over online. A lot of that stuff is generated to get to people like Nate, to rile you up. The Iranians themselves have an incredible propaganda operation, and they're counting on that. Nate was a good example. What they believe is that the willpower of their regime, even though they've been mostly decapitated, can withstand the pain of the bombing and the economic threats and will outlast us because these people think in 1,000-year increments. The Persian Empire was around a long time before Rome even existed. And our country's only 250 years old. We're still a baby nation compared to that part of the world. And they have a longer view of the world. Most Americans can't remember what they were pissed off about 2 weeks ago. It's just true. We're ADD. We've got less attention than a goldfish. Goldfish can hold attention on something for 8 seconds. Humans are getting underneath that. The average human is less than that, and internet's making it worse. So what they're counting on is this nonstop propaganda. The Chinese use the same tactics against our own culture to break our will. Because if you break the will of the people with this nonstop nonsense that's revisionist history, it's not informed, it doesn't have a long view of things. Because honestly, I believe kids today have no stored memory whatsoever. They haven't lived through this. In Nate's case, he hasn't lived through this Iranian regime his whole life like I have. So he's missing a lot of information that he's not going to find online. And I wouldn't blame him if I got worked up over somebody like Joe Kent. Joe Kent is under investigation for leaking classified information. So he sanctimoniously quit and is trying to have some morally superior high ground with bad information. He can't know the status of the Iranian nuclear program. He was not invited to the meetings. This guy was not in the meetings. They cut him out a long time ago because they suspected the leaking. And he should have been fired before he was allowed to step down, I guess. So you've got a guy out there that's become a sort of surrogate spokesperson for this bad information that Iran had no threat of getting a nuclear weapon. They absolutely did. It's why the Barack Obama regime spent almost 8 years trying to talk them out of not having a weapon. Y'all remember all that, right? I mean, he sent them billions of dollars. They agreed to this deal. What was it called? The JCPOA, whatever they called that stupid Iran deal, which had an expiration date on it of like 10 years. We had to let them know or the world had to let them know before they came to inspect. What was that all about? Okay, it was a completely different approach for sure. He didn't have the desire or the courage to go in and just take out the program. So what was that all about? It was 100% about this effort that the Iranians had announced to the world for decades that they wanted to achieve nuclear supremacy in the region. That scared the hell out of the Saudis. In fact, the back channels today are reporting that the Saudis are raising hell with Trump, trying to get him to get back and finish the fight. That is, completely get the regime to change. The Israelis, the Saudis, UAE, and these other countries. This isn't some Jewish conspiracy. If you believe that, you're also following the wrong information. That whole region wants the regime completely out of power. Trump hit the pause button and negotiated with what was left of the regime. They're still dug in on their end times philosophy, so we're going to finish it. And we're going to finish it by the economic circumstance of cutting off their revenue with blockading the Strait of Hormuz ourselves. We just the only holdup in the pressure campaign that's being applied is an economic blackmail campaign to the world over energy. They think that not only will American citizens wimp out, which clearly, based on the calls I get here on a regular basis, American citizens don't have the stomach. We are not the World War II generation. Even though our military has behaved exemplary in an exemplary way on a number of fronts, we've had minimal casualties. The average big Democrat-run city in this country has had more deaths in the last 43 days than the military's had, and I guess they got their own wars going on. We finished the hardest part of the thing already. The most unpredictable part was going in the first place. And so now the regime is largely fractured. They're fighting with each other. They're not on the winning side of anything. They send this delegation that we're not even sure represents the whole of the country now, that they're fractionalized. And they dug in, and so we gave them a shot. And today we've got 24 ships in the strait, proving that the ships can go through the strait. And we're going to secure it. We're going to check the mines, and then we're going to let the rest of the world transit the strait, and Iran is going to be choked off economically, and that's the end of their regime. They can't survive that. Believe it or not, even though they're an oil-producing nation, they can't get gasoline into the mainland of Iran without Karg Island. And so theoretically, what we've done also is to block Karg Island. So it's everything we talked about on Friday. I couldn't have predicted this, but we talked about these possibilities. That one of the possibilities, and I opened the show with this analysis, was to blockade Iran from its own resources and from its own economic sales in the world. And by one estimate I read today, they can last about 20 more days before a complete economic collapse. And the president's team knows that. And so that's what they've chosen to do. And you don't need to fire shots at them to do this. So the air campaign is still suspended, and I suspect we're going to do some more bombing before it's over. There's still some targets. I suspect if they won't give it up, we're going to send people in and retrieve that nuclear material that absolutely exists. This is not the WMD fallacy of Iraq. That was something that got spun up, and we weren't 100% sure about it, even though Colin Powell and Susan Rice and the gang got on television back in 2003 and tried to convince us, and did convince a lot of people. This is completely different. The world has known about their development of the nuclear program forever. The Israeli intelligence on that program has been impeccable. The whole world knows exactly what's on the ground there and where it is. So we hit Fordham, and that took out about 75% of it, but they immediately went back to work, so the threat remained. And so here we are wrapping things up. This is a wrap-up mission. What we're negotiating and what we're working toward is the complete surrender of whoever's in charge so that maybe the people can get their country back and that the rest of the region can live in peace with each other. And the whole time we're doing it, we've got a parade of cargo ships heading to the United States and already in the Gulf of Mexico buying oil from us. That is an amazing pivot in the world oil regime, and the whole way energy flows around the world is being changed because the vulnerability of this choke point that's been there before we started bombing on March the 1st, that vulnerability's also always been there. The Iranians have used the threat of closing the Strait of Hormuz since they got into power, and they've done it a couple of times. I'll remind you, especially young folks that don't know the history, Reagan had to send the Navy in to open the strait in the late 80s. We did it. We opened it. The world was fine. The oil kept flowing through the strait. We have all the cards in this situation. It ends as soon as the United States decides it does. And right now, there's still some outlying issues that need to be mopped up. Y'all, it's been 43 days. Unless you're a truck driver, you're not wasting that much more money. It's expensive, but it's not a crisis. You know what a crisis is? Again, you kids, y'all don't know this stuff. A crisis is when there's no gas. A crisis is when people are lined up outside of gas stations for a mile, pushing their cars to the pumps when the gas stations get gas. That's a crisis. And we've seen that in this country. And they're about to see it in Europe because they had too much dependency on this centrally sort of clogged up situation. And now they're running short, and they chased a bunch of green energy nonsense. But here we are, one of the biggest producers in the world. We're a net exporter. As far as our ability to survive and power our economy, we've got our own resources. It's expensive right now because we're still part of this whole globally traded system where prices are priced globally and we pay for it at the pump. But again, it's been 43 days. Our grandparents would roll over in their graves and laugh at us for us pretending that we're in some kind of crisis. It's painful and it's not fun to spend an extra $20 filling your car up. That's all Americans are being asked to do is calm down, have some patience, and let's do the right thing for once in 47 years and get rid of these terrorists that were terrorizing the whole world and could have been worse had they achieved that weapon. And they were damn close. And we know they were damn close. You have to be ignorant not to know that they've been extremely close. It's why they won't give it up now, even in the talks. They've been bombed to smithereens. And on one hand, you say, well, they didn't have a bomb. They were no threat. But they're at the table, even this weekend, insisting that they still want to keep doing it. Anyway, sometimes you got to do the hard things. You got to quit following politics and being so gullible. Broaden your viewpoints and look around the world sometimes and know a little history. And you can kind of see where this is going. It's trajectory, okay? If you know where we are at point A and you know where we are at point B, you can predict point C. But some people nowadays with this information environment that we're in, where everybody's in their own little silos and they don't know what's outside of that, all they know is point B. And they're scared to death of point C. And they have no point of reference in the past, rooted in the past, that Google's not going to show you and the mainstream media is not going to report. But if you've lived it, you know it. You know these things intuitively, innately. You know these things because we've seen world history unfold. And we're telling you where we've been so we can see where we're going. And honestly, I think it's my generation that's the most calm about this. We've been talking about this since 1979. Somebody had to do something about these maniacs. All right, let's go back to the phones. What time is it, AJ? I'll tell you what, Frank and Chase and Dan and Joe, y'all hold on. We'll come to you. But I got to get this break in here because I'm going to run behind. I got on another got my rant pads on. So we'll take care of that here in just a minute. Another one of our fine sponsors is Express Oil Change. Through the month of April, they're giving $1 of every oil change to Children's Hospital. What a worthy cause. What a good company. Stores all over the place. I've told you before, everybody kind of knows where there's an Express. And if it's just an oil change you need, and check your sticker. When's the last time you went? You got to remind yourself. Some cars have the oil light. Some of you get annoyed and turn that off and forget about it. Don't do that. Just get it changed. It only takes 10 minutes at Express, and they're going to take $1 from that oil change and give it straight over to Children's Hospital. They raised, I think, close to a couple of $1 million already for Children's doing this program through the month of April. So if your oil needs changing or anybody in your family, y'all get by there and see one of them. I bet you know a location near you. Express Oil Change, not just changing oil, they're changing lives. Back here in just a minute. All right, it's 324 Leland Live, talking to M5. Mandu might just be what you need to get yourself in shape. If you're sick of gyms and you know it doesn't work, and to be honest with you, the older you get, that metabolism slows down, and you'd have to spend 3 times the amount of time you used to spend in the gym just to get the old workout in. Do it a different way. Mandu is electronic muscle stimulation. It's not like anything you've ever tried if you've never tried it. You actually put their suit on. They give you an electric current. Sounds like Frankenstein, but it works. It tingles a little bit at first. You have to get used to the sensation, but the current itself in the machine that they hook you to actually helps stimulate the flex of the muscle. So the muscle pulsates and flexes while you go through a routine. And then when you're done, 15 minutes later, that's all the body can take. It's all you need to do. You feel it all over. You feel that good kind of sore. Then you start making better choices in your life on your eating habits and the other stuff you do. I found that it makes me want to take more steps every day and just stay on track. Sometimes you need that little push. Try Mandu. They're just a great organization. In Homewood, the Birmingham location's in Homewood downtown. There's one in Tuscaloosa on University. There's one in Huntsville now. They're just growing. Go see those guys and try it for free and let them explain how it works and evaluate you for your fitness to even do it. It's Mandu. Put 2 U's in there when you spell it. MANDUU, Mandu.com, Mandu.com. All right, let me take these calls. AJ, I guess we'll start at the top. I'm going to start at the top of my list, and you guys be patient with me today. That'd be Chase on line 2. What's up, Chase?
Hey, Leland. Yeah, sorry about the mishap earlier.
That's okay.
So, well, here's the thing. Nate is a guy that's 9 years younger than me. So I was born during what I would call the golden age, 1986. And, all I've ever heard is how Iran has been a threat to our country. And, and I did my research and realized later that Iran, was on track to eventually be similar to America in the Middle East until the Islamic Revolution. What aggravates me so much is these people who call up here acting like, oh, they're going to try to catch you off guard or something like that. Number one, they're just reading talking points that probably CNN and MS Trash has said, over and over again because they're trying to discredit our president. But two, these are also the same people that if we had left Iran alone and if they built that nuclear weapon, they would have shot a missile at Israel, then would have shot one at us, and God help us if it had gotten through, say if it got through and hit anywhere in the U.S., then these would be the same people who would turn right around and be like, well, why didn't you do anything to protect us? They're the biggest bunch of hypocrites that I've ever seen. And I can't fathom as to why there is a group of people in our own country, my fellow countrymen, are rooting for another country to try to knock us down a peg.
Oh, yeah. There's a whole body of politics here in America that want this to fail. They want our service members to die. They wanted that pilot to get captured. It's true because they become so wrapped in their politics and keeping score and honestly in their emotions that they've lost the ability to reason this thing. Any reasonable person that knows the history of these maniacs knows how dangerous. They're dangerous without a nuclear weapon. They should have been taken out regardless. So
look, my uncle served over in Iraq. Did 3 tours in Iraq, and I mean he would be the first to tell you that he has no. He actually would prefer to see Iran become a parking lot. I'm not saying that's what we should do, but I mean, but the problem that a lot of people, a lot of these lefties don't realize, you can't reason with people who are so zealous in their beliefs that they will lie to you to your face and then turn around and stab you in the back. And that's exactly what the last remnants of this regime wants to do. And I hate to say it, but we may have to wipe that part out before we can see any good progress.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in. Look, I appreciate your call, Chase. And look, again, I'm trying to be kind to Nate because I feel sorry for that generation that's so lacking. And let me take the blame. My generation screwed up with that group. We just did. We took for granted that the schools were teaching history. We took for granted that the internet was just a fun thing when it came along. And now they've been denied an education, a real education in the position of our country in the world. In fact, they've been sort of indoctrinated with a bunch of false teaching, and the public schools have fallen apart. Universities are worthless on these subjects. And then we get in this information age where it reinforces the things you don't know. And it's leaving a lot of people. I don't blame them for being alarmed and paranoid because that's what that's what the internet does. It drives your paranoia because it keeps you clicking. It's an algorithm that's abusing you, and most folks don't. It's the world they live in, especially the younger you are. And it's hard for me on the radio with a one phone call to fix people's poor educations. Back in a minute. Man, the show's already flying by. We just got a jam bank of phone calls. So we're going to keep rolling through them. All American Metals, also big time sponsor of the show. If you're planning any kind of growth projects, I was in a warehouse today from a new client that's going to come on, and it's a big operation. I'm going to be honest with you. He was showing us all about the business, and I was over there with our buddy Justin, and I kept looking up at the steel beams and the structure. And I thought about All American and how they do these big warehouse projects in addition to what I would consider, it was a big project for me, but a pole barn, pretty small project for them, but they can handle all of it. The fact that they're local and all the material is sourced at their factories here locally when they assemble your building after they've gone through and helped you with your plans. And because it's turnkey from design all the way to bringing it to your site, even helping you get lined up with a contractor, this is the company that can get this done for you expeditiously. Their turnaround time is a lot quicker than their competitors. You don't get any corporate sales pressure. They're just going to give you a great price and get that building delivered and everything, even the design work. When you get your stamped plans, that's going to come to you faster than some of the more corporate national type of people. Whoa. That do this kind of stuff. AJ, you'd think I'd learn to turn my phone off every day. I thought I did. Dadgummit. It's still going. All right. Y'all know how it is. At least it wasn't in church. Y'all, it is, of course, All American Metals, aa-metal.com, aa-metal.com. All right, who's next? I got two of my favorites, Dan in Fultondale and Joe in Coleman. I'm going to both give them equal time. Dan, go, man.
Hey, Leland, thanks for taking my call, and big thanks to AJ for letting me through. I was going to say I kind of agree with Nate, what he was trying to bring up about Joe Kent. And I do understand, like you're saying, Joe Kent is under investigation. And, I mean, that may very well be serious, but I don't think it discredits his 11 tours of service and losing his wife in those wars.
You don't gather information on the state of the Iranian nuclear program from your past military service. You just don't. That's intelligence community generated information that's been there for 3 decades. And every president we've had, basically since the 1990s when they really achieved capability, has known this. They've all spoken to it. You can go find that, Dan, online. Every president we've had has spoken to the nuclear threat from Iran, period.
Well, I hear you on that. And my thing is his criticism of Israel and Joe Kent saying that he thought that Israel was what drug us into this war. And many of the wars that he served in and being the global war on terrorism, I was wanting to give 2 examples real quick of why I think guys like Nate, because he brought up the meme of if your son was kicked out of 109 bars, would that be your son's fault? I don't think you're familiar with that meme, but that's a reference. Yeah, that's a reference to the Jewish expulsions of Europe. And all over the world, they've been kicked out of over 100 countries, like Spain, like France, like Italy, like England.
That has nothing to do with our military operation in Iran.
Well, I'll tell you why me and Nate think it does, and I can tell because Nate, I know he's a lot younger than me. I'm right in between him and you. And just like when I called last time, I told you, anybody my age or younger, they're done with Israel. We don't believe about this.
It's not anybody, because I know people your age and younger that are absolutely
sure. I should say the majority. I would definitely say it's the majority.
Correct. But I think there's a growing, to give you some credit there, Dan, I think there's a growing body of belief
yes,
that has grown in intensity. But we've seen that in movements throughout Europe and here in the United States. It cycles through history. We saw it in Germany in the 1930s. You saw it here in the United States in the 70s. This sort of, you can call it anti-Semitic or just anti-Jewish body of thought rises from time to time in world history. It's not really that new.
And it coincided in Germany with the rise of transgender surgeries being pushed by Jewish surgeons like Dr. Magnus Hirschfeld. Same thing as Dr. Rachel Levine pushing transgenderism on our children. So these things do repeat through history. You're right about that. But real quick, my 2 examples that I'd like to give of why we believe that Israel is a terrorist state and they are waging fifth-generation warfare on us as Americans, they're more sinister in their terrorism because they are more discreet, and they don't do it with beheadings and with yelling Aloha snack bar and all that. They don't do that. What they do it is things like the USS Liberty, where they killed 30 of our sailors and injured 300 of our sailors when they bombed.
That was widely reviewed by military experts and believed to be an accident. There's no one that believes they would target the United States that way. It would not be in their interest, politically or otherwise.
The men that were on the ship believe that.
What good would that have done them to take out the Liberty?
They would have used it. They would have used it as a false flag to drag us into more war.
Okay.
They want us to fight
Did they kill
the
Charlie
Muslims.
Kirk too? What else did they do?
Well, I'm not saying that. Charlie Kirk, did make these
All right,
same
Dan.
criticisms of Israel right before he died. The last example I'd like to give, because when I called in last time, you said, is there even any example of Israel doing terrorism? And I think of two right off the bat.
I can think of more Muslim examples of Muslim jihadi terrorism than you can.
No. But two
If you want
things
to go
can be true at the same
go.
time. Two things can be true at the same time. So my last example for you would
I'm
be
not saying they're pure.
Jonathan
I'm just saying
Pollard.
they have not been the threat to this nation or the world that some of these fundamentalist
It's
Islamic
apples and
programs
oranges. They're
have
both
been. It's
a
not even
threat.
close. It's not
They're both a
historically
threat.
close. It's not functionally close. There's
Is
nothing about that.
Is OnlyFans a threat to the daughters of our nation?
Who?
There is a pornographic website that you may not be familiar with called OnlyFans.
Oh, I've heard
And it
of
has
it.
made a generation of young women into
So what, a Jewish guy
pornographic
owns it?
There is a Jewish man that owns it, yes.
Right. You know what?
But
Jewish people own a lot of tech.
Can I just make
They
my
own
point real quick?
ChristianMingle.com. Ron,
Yeah.
White, thanks, Dan. I got to go, man. I just can't
Why?
get in. My nerves won't handle conspiracy theories today. I mean, most of the time when you're arguing with people that have whipped themselves into conspiracy theories, you're trying to prove negatives, which is kind of how that whole thing works. It's just my head hurts, man. I think it's not Dan. I actually like Dan, but I'm trying to calm him down a little bit. Joe, I'm just gonna let you have the floor. Go, man.
That's the first time I've heard about the 109 different, the reason they kicked him out of 109 different countries. Hey, Leland, they kicked him out of Egypt too. Remember, they kicked him out of Egypt.
Yeah, word.
Because of a Zionist revolution that was going on over there.
Hitler kicked him out of Poland, or took him to Poland
Hitler
and kicked
kicked
him
him
out of
out of
Germany.
Poland.
Yeah, they've been kicked around a bunch.
So Karl Marx was a Jewish Zionist conspiracy to go into Russia and start that whole. I'm telling you, dude. Look. When I was 30 years old, I believed that wars were about oil, and it was all about money and oil and all that, and that's what wars about. And then when I got to be 43, like I am now, you know what I did? I came to the realization that wars are about oil and money, and that's what wars have been about since the beginning of time.
Well,
Because
as
that's
soon
what
as we
makes the
discovered
world go
oil, for
around.
sure. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
I got it.
So,
Yeah.
so I wasn't just I mean, there's a bleeding that quote, from Churchill or whatever. You're at one time a bleeding heart, and if you're not a bleeding heart liberal, then you have no heart, and then once you get older, you have no brain. If you're still a bleeding heart liberal, because it's just the reality of things. But look, here's the news: America's still the good guy. America's still the good. 9/11 happens, and those FBI agents and the CIA agents who couldn't get along, and those two agencies that couldn't communicate, there were still FBI agents that were in that office going into buildings and saving people and risking their lives and dying that day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they knew the threat and they knew what was going on, but they were still going in there and saving lives. There's still soldiers that are getting court-martialed for killing some Iraqi guardsmen for molesting a kid in a tent. And he couldn't handle it. He didn't care if that was a part of the culture. That's something he couldn't stand for. His moral compass could not handle it, and he just decided, you know what, I got to do something about this. And there's Navy SEALs that had PTSD all over the place that are soldiers in our Army that have PTSD. You know why? We're still the good guys. We're still the good guys, Leland. And we do a bunch of bad stuff to a bunch of bad people, but it still affects us because we're still the good guys. And so you can listen to all these podcasts that you want to about how we took over Hawaii by force and all this, and because of that, America's rotten, and how we hired Nazis to come in and run the space program, and because of that, America's just flawed, and we just can't do it. We're not the good guys. It's all a conspiracy. The CIA has been running this operation and that operation, but the American people and the wars and the schemes that we develop and we go into, we're still the good guys around the rest of the world. And we have been since the founding of the country. And that has not changed because the American people are what's America. It's not corrupt government officials, just like the Israeli people are what is the nation of Israel.
Well, you know what it goes back to, Joe, is our whole country was a Jewish conspiracy to begin with, because the initial funding for the Revolutionary War, this is a historical fact. The initial funding that got us off the ground so we could fight the king was a guy named Haim Solomon. And he was Jewish, and he believed in the cause, and he understood, and he put up roughly $20 million in today's money to get Washington's army together. And that's how the conspiracy started. All they were doing was to just prop us up so they could then get themselves slaughtered by the Germans, so they then could claim victimhood, and we would eventually come to the rescue and give them the state of Israel. Right. I see the whole conspiracy.
That couldn't have been ordained by God, because some Jewish guy over in Germany in the 1913s was a doctor that was doing transgender surgery, and his mom or his daddy happened to be Jewish, so therefore the whole race is evil. They're behind it all.
It's what happens. Thanks, Joe. Look, man, I'm trying to be nice, but I'm telling you, there's a pattern in our culture right now where people whip themselves into these theories and will not entertain contravailing information and don't have any life experience or formal education in this stuff. And so all of this information is getting whipped up and spoon-fed through the internet, then reinforced with additional algorithms and clicks. It becomes real to you. And this is where I feel sorry for folks in a number of fronts. I mean, social media is destroying the brains of this culture in our country, really probably the world, with this same program, with this same sequence. And it's not just true of these conspiracy theories and politics. It's true of a lot of Hollywood stuff, a lot of other propaganda that's being force-fed. We're going to forget who we are. And by the way, the Iranians are counting on this. They're counting on us being weak, having no resolve, falling apart quickly, and fighting amongst ourselves. It is the oldest strategy in war. It's divide and conquer. And we see division right now. And our country can't survive unless we understand who we are and what our history is and why we're here and why we do things. That doesn't mean we got to agree with every war that comes along, clearly. But in this circumstance, this is a circumstance that's been brewing, again, since 1979. This is an evil, maniac, end times, violent regime that is the world's leading exporter of terrorism. The bombs, the trainings, IEDs, the tactics, the strategy, all of it. The maiming of our troops on the battlefields of Iraq, the October 7th situation. Spin all the theories you want. The Jews didn't jump over the wall with hang gliders and rape people in Gaza. Okay. All right. I can't do the whole show this way. I'll try to be fair to people, but it's borders insanity right now. And for the rest of the audience that's not spun up into this stuff, I got to keep presenting a radio show this afternoon. So let me tell you about Lonnie's Furniture Company. What a great setup over there. I heard from two more of our listeners this weekend. I heard a listener from last week that called all the way from down in, I think it was Pickens County, drove all the way to Kimberly, Alabama to see this store, and was so proud he had to call in. They got inspired by that phone call, made the drive themselves, one from East Alabama over near Montford. I'm trying to remember the other ones up around Fayette, I think. They all said, yeah, we went and did a weekend over at Lonnie's and found all kinds of stuff, more stuff than they planned on buying. But that's the cool part about it. You see the value when you walk in the door. You see the selection, you get fired up, and you just outfit your whole house. It's Lonnie'sFurnitureCompany.com, LAUNIUS, Lonnie'sFurnitureCompany.com. Back right after this. All right, it's 3:52. Leland Live, talking to M5 Axiom Tax Resolution Group, bringing you the show tonight. Man, if you're dealing with the IRS, what is it, 2 days? It is a tight deadline. If you're just struggling because you don't know how in the world you're going to pay it, reach out to Perry before you make a miscalculation or a mistake or put yourself where you're going to be harassed and tracked down by the IRS. Some of you are dealing with this from previous tax years, and it is really good to know that we have such an expert like Perry here in Birmingham ready to help, knows everything there is to know about the laws that protect you, the settlement programs that will help you settle for less than you owe. It's Axiom Tax Resolution Group. Perry Cronin, in person, face to face. It just makes sense to do this stuff. Don't let them run over you. Don't let them start harassing you out of your money. Heck, they may have missed their own deadlines. There have been cases Perry told me about where the IRS wasn't given the whole story. So you need somebody on your side, and don't try to pick up the phone, take them on by yourself. It's a no-win situation. Sad that the tax code is what it is, but it is. So let's get through this tax season with Perry Cronin at Axiom Tax Resolution Group, 205tax.com, 205tax.com. AJ, you tell me, you got the call counter over there. Is Buddy next? I'm going to start back at the top with Buddy on a cell phone. What's up, Buddy?
Hey, good afternoon. Hey, have you heard the story of the former Air Force Master Sergeant who pled guilty to defrauding the Air Force out of $37 million?
I don't know if I'm familiar. Is that a news story?
I read it this morning. Alan Hayward James. And he'd been doing it for 9 years. So obviously the government has some loopholes in there of checks and balances that are not being checked and balanced.
Or balanced.
I don't know how this happens. I really don't.
Listen, the stories out of California with the hospice, the stuff in Minnesota. A couple of weeks ago, we had 2 guys that just wandered on their military base and stole a drone. I mean, that's physical theft, but these accountability programs, it's because the government is swimming in our money and the controls are just not there. And it's stunning. I'll tell you a quick background. My wife works in the grant business. She does research and helps nonprofits in some cities, apply for grants and go through that laborious process. And it's cutthroat and you might not make it and it's disappointing, and they work through that. And so these are people that are following the rules. And while they're following the rules, other people are just stealing it.
And they don't fear the law.
Not at all. It's really sad. I hate to interrupt.
It's just sad because he went by the name Al Capone.
You got to be kidding me.
And in the article, Leland, it says, and like Capone, he got caught, but it took him almost 10 years to catch him.
I got to dig into that story and find out more about it. We supposedly have J.D. Vance and this DOJ team vetting this stuff out, but some of that money's been going out the door. Some of it was appropriated years ago. It's stunning. And the thing is, they teach each other. They learn where the loophole is and where the government's not looking, and then they scale it. And they'll set up. I heard the story the other day about how in California, somebody will set up like 30 licenses for hospice. And the minute the feds get onto them, they'll declare bankruptcy on all those hospices and move the whole operation over to 30 new hospices that are just fresh in the system. And it erases the whole thing. The investigation goes to a dead end. Some of these lazy bureaucrats don't care. If you're in a state like California, you're looking the other way because their goal was to get immigrants into the country no matter what. Give them all the resources they need to get here and stay here. And so they were looking the other way. Yep.
I wish they'd make an example out of these people that are defrauding, and I'm talking public. Public. They don't fear going to jail, and if they go to jail, they're going to federal prison, which, let's face it, that's a Holiday Inn. So it's frustrating to keep seeing this repeated over and over, just in a different way. I appreciate you taking my call. All right,
buddy. Good. I can totally relate to that story. By the way, there are 3 Democrat legislators over in Georgia in the last several months that have all been convicted of stealing money. I think a lot of that had to go through the PPP loan process. That was when a lot of the floodgates threw open, where just common, ordinary people that had never interacted with the government suddenly realized, man, if you fill out a form, they send you money. And so whole enterprises were set up. There were so many fake businesses. I remember when we were first onto this, my brother, there were lists that you could go to for each county for the people that were getting PPP loans. It was some kind of published list. And so just out of curiosity, he had gone online. He's from a very small area where everybody knows everybody. And there were businesses listed all through there. He knew good and well one didn't exist days before, had stupid misspelled names, and couldn't possibly be eligible as real businesses to get money, but they got money because they were slinging it out the door as fast as they could because they decided to shut our economy down and pay people to stay home. That was the great reset, and now we're resetting the reset. Just know what I'm talking about. All right, look, do I have time? Yeah, let me see if I can get Tom in here from Clear. What's up, Tom? Tom Clear, go, man. Tom dropped, and I see Junior, and I see, is Nate back? Is that our previous Nate?
Yes, it is.
All right, I'd like for him to be able to finish. I want to give him fair time, so maybe we'll get to him in just a little bit. We're bumping up against the top of the hour. Douglas Cooling and Heating, bringing you the show tonight. Y'all, we got to get those air conditioners tuned up. Real heat's finally back. It's coming back, and it's not going anywhere. It's the heat and the humidity, and that's what your system handles. Douglas can come get you ready. And if you need a replacement, just trust me on this. Don't wait till it's we're in a heat wave and everybody's systems are breaking, including yours, and you're waiting on service. That is so miserable. Do it now in the controlled environment with the folks at Douglas. And in the meantime, keep those systems right and tight and tuned up with calldouglas.com. License number 2017181. They got a plumbing division too. Y'all check that out online as well. Calldouglas.com. Back here in just a minute.